Welcome everybody to the Kim Barrett Show. I am your host, Kim Barrett, and on today's episode we have Mr. Jaryd Krause from Buying Online Businesses. Now, Jaryd is a gun when it comes to online digital properties. That's right. So not just going and buying a house, he's going and buying websites, going and buying online businesses and using them to grow, using them to really build up an online portfolio that can bring you a passive, if you want to use that term, passive income on the regular. So he breaks down how his clients go out there and get 20 to 30% return on their money each and every year and consistently do that by identifying the right online properties. So I, of course, ask him, where are the secrets? Where do we go to find these secret properties? So if you've ever looked at it and gone, how do I build a business that can work without me having to be and open a shop every day, without me having to go and open the doors in a building and without having to have hundreds and hundreds of staff? This is an episode you will not want to miss. And of course, we ask him hard questions in here as well. So if you've ever wanted to grow a business online, this is the episode for you. Let's jump into the show. So Jaryd, sir, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you making the time.
Thanks, Kim. Great to be here. Appreciate it too.
Great to have you. Now, I always like to start every podcast off with the same question, which is, Jaryd, if I met you at a party and we were chatting away and we we're going back and forth and I said, Jaryd, what is it that you actually do? What's your go-to answer?
That's a good question. I teach people to buy website businesses. And I've actually experimented. I love this question. I've actually experimented with my answer so much with this because upon my travels, like, as you know, I've done a bunch of traveling. People would always ask me, what do you do? What do you do? And I used to experiment telling people like, hey, I play tennis and I surf and sometimes I breathe and like just stupid things like that and see people's reactions. Because I think the default that people always go to is like, what do you do for work? But the for work thing isn't in that, because I know that you do a lot of things outside of work that you absolutely love, right, Kim? As do I. And in fact, that's why I'm in business, so I can do more of that.
Yeah, that's such a great answer. I think it is. It's very important because you say, well, what is it that you actually do in the context of what? So it's always an interesting one. Now, you said obviously buy website businesses. It's provocative. It gets the people going. What is a website business? Like, is it a business that has websites? Is it a website? Like, fill us in a little bit more, because you do some pretty cool stuff and you've had me on your podcast and shared a bit about what it is that you do, but I really want to kind of get into the meat and potatoes of it all.
Yeah, cool. So a lot of people come to me and say, hey, Jaryd, I want to buy a website business that's already making money. That's how I sort of started in this. I bought a couple of businesses myself and people were like, hey, dude, you need to teach me this stuff in a course, and went away and put all that stuff together. You said, got the podcast and all that stuff. But what we actually do is people come in and they're like, hey, I want to buy a website business that's already making money, so I can just buy it and have that as an income stream. And a lot of people, like we talked about on our podcast, on my episode the other day about the side hustle thing, a lot of people use that as their side hustle whilst they're working and build that up to a certain level so they can replace their income. And why this is super valuable is because a lot of people, like, it's really hard to start. They try to start a website business. It's really, really hard, like, or any business for that matter. Like 90% of all startups fail. And so I learned that hard way and so many other people have, and they thought, well, far out. Like, if I can just buy one that's within that 10%, that's got the successful marketing plan, the successful traffic, sales, it's doing all its thing, I can just come in, buy it, do a few things, tweak it and run it and grow it. And that's it. It's an easier entry point for those people who want to skip that failure rate, basically.
So many questions popping into my head after saying that. First one for you. How many website businesses? Is it 3 that you have, or you had 3 and you've sold a couple? Or
yeah, I had 3. I've had more, but 3, and I'm down to 2 now, which is good. I sold one just before this COVID thing went crazy in March over in Australia, and that was an e-commerce business. And then we're looking at buying some more.
Love that. Yeah. So guys, if you have website businesses for sale, Jaryd's the man to speak to, or if you want to buy them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so fill us in, because with a website business, right, for me, automatically in my head, I know a couple of different styles of them, but some people are like, oh, like you mentioned, e-commerce, businesses that sell products. Is it businesses that sell information? Like what sort of website businesses are out there?
Yeah, there's a good question, man. There's three main type of business models, and there's hybrids between those ones as well. The first one I'll talk about is content websites, which are basically websites like blogs that produce content like information, how-to type stuff, which is educational stuff. And through doing that, they'll put affiliate links on their site, or they have ads on their site, and that's how they monetize it and make money. So they're content websites. Then you have e-commerce websites, which is, probably what more about like what you focus on with your social voice is teaching people how to sell their physical products and also their digital products. So they could be information, courses, or a lot of the time it's people selling physical products like, basketballs and home furniture or whatever it is. And those types of businesses could be, drop shipping. It could be self-product distribution or using a 3PL, which is a third-party logistics or order fulfillment agency. But a big one that's really popular now is FBA, and it's been popular for about 4 years, which is fulfillment by Amazon, where you can get a bunch of products made either in Australia, US, China, ship it to an Amazon warehouse. You can upload that to Amazon, and when they sell, that warehouse will just send out your product for you. So they basically do all that third-party logistics shipping. There's two types there. You got content and then e-commerce sites. And the last one is membership and SaaS sort of website businesses. So if you think of Netflix, they're selling entertainment and people pay per month to get access to that entertainment. Or another one might be like a software like Xero or QuickBooks, where people pay per month to have access to that tool or that software. And it could be a membership like mine. People will pay per month to get access to my courses and my information and education and learn from that. So there's different types of niches within each of those business models. And then sometimes they can be a cross-pollination. Like I could sell physical products myself on my site, Kim, or I could have an affiliate link, which I actually do. I've got affiliate links to different tools that we use as well. Not that it makes a bunch of money, but you can do hybrids, and there's many cool different things that you can do. Yeah. So that hopefully that's not too much of an information overload for the listeners.
No, I think it's good, because it's always curious. If you hear someone say it's like, oh, I've got a website business, there's so many different variations of, and it's always just interesting to see, because, when I first heard about what you're doing, and I've seen other people that have, sold websites and things before, and I'm very just interested to see the different approaches that you can have. And I mean, one of the questions that pops into my mind when I hear that, and I'm sure the listeners or watchers as well, is, let's just say that, I do come across a website that's for sale, and maybe they've got these things in there. I want to ask in a moment about some of the pitfalls and whatnot, but what sort of, if I'm just someone who's looking to bring this on as part of a side hustle and then maybe make it bigger, what sort of profitability and income can come from some of these if they're on the market? And I know that there's a range. There's probably, you can buy some for a couple of grand up to a couple of $100,000. But like, is there a sweet spot where it's like X dollars in, you should be getting Y dollars back when you're looking at these sorts of deals?
Yeah, that's a great question. Normally, I base the returns on a 20 to 30% return on your investment. So let's just stick with round numbers here. If you're going to buy a $10,000 website, roughly per year, you'd be returning about 2 to 3K net profit. Now, if you're going to buy a 100K website, roughly per year, you'll be making around $20,000 to $30,000 in net profit. So that's net profit. That's not like revenue after all the expenses. And what you can do is you can scale those and build those up. So that business may be worth 150K in 2 years' time and whatnot. But it also depends on the business model. And I know that there's different pitfalls that we're going to get into soon, and sort of risks that people need to look out for. But that's what I like to base the numbers off, is a 20 to 30% return on your investment per year. And so that means roughly it can take you 3 to 4 years to get 100% return back on your money, which is quite exceptional when you're looking at investing in real estate or in the stock market. It's 5 to 7%. There's also, it's not like as safe as houses. Like real estate is a harder boat to rock in terms of risk. With an online business, things can change so quick. Like, you know, the effects of an algorithm changing in Facebook or Instagram, and it can really rock people's marketing campaigns and strategies. And there's so many other algorithms online that can rock businesses as well. So yeah.
With that, as you mentioned, like obviously there's some risk. Well, one of the things I want to ask first before we dive into a little bit of that is around what sort of experience or skill level. Like if I go out there, I'm a novice, I have a business or I have a job, not really super technical, not really, crazy on the back end of websites or even maybe marketing, maybe a little bit of experience there. Can I still get a good result going through that, or do I have to have a whole bunch of skills before I would even look at taking on and investing in and purchasing a website business?
Yeah. The answer is anybody who is fully committed to learning will get a result. So you could have, say if you were to come to me, Kim, and you say, hey, Jaryd, I know nothing about website businesses or online businesses, but I want to buy a business so I can replace my income and do nothing. And that you just want that business to sit there and make money. You don't have to do anything. Now, if you went and bought that, I wouldn't work with you in the first place. No offense, but with an attitude, I know you don't have that attitude, but for somebody who wants to just buy something that's just going to sit there and tick over and make money, this is not the investment strategy or the investment route for you. But if somebody comes to me like you, Kim, and is like hungry, like, and keen for growth, like you and I are very similar in that sense, and that you say, hey, Jaryd, I know nothing about website businesses, but I want to buy one, and I'm going to do everything in my power to learn as much as I can about digital marketing or SEO or whatever it is to grow that business. Can I do this? And my answer is 100% yes. As long as you have the commitment to learn what you need to learn to grow that business after you've bought it, of course. And in fact, it's really hard to, like when a novice comes to start a website business, it's so hard for them to get off the ground because the time it takes for them to learn what they need to do to get to maybe, $500 a month or $1,000 a month for their business, it takes a long, long time. And more often than not, they're going to fail, which is why that failure rate's so high, 90% and above. But that person who comes to say me, that's a total novice, and says, hey, Jaryd, I know nothing, but I want to buy a business. They can go away and buy a business that's already making that income. They've skipped that whole failure rate. And plus they're going to learn, integrate and make sure in APA, which is our asset purchase agreement, that we have a certain training period with the previous owner of the business. And they basically teach you how to run the whole business. They teach you how to do the marketing, how to fulfill the orders, how to, create the content. So that education alone is amazing from a person who's already built a successful business. So somebody that's committed and a novice is completely able to do this. Yeah.
I think there's like one of the big, you've already touched on, like one of the things to mitigate and avoid the risk and pitfalls is, number one, find the right person to give you that information. Because that just little part that you shared there about getting that ex-owner to teach you and sit down with you, I'm sure that's completely invaluable. Like as you said, you wouldn't be able to get that anywhere else just taking something over. But what are a couple of the other kind of like common pitfalls that people would be seeing if they start going through and like looking at purchasing in a website business, and they're like, oh, like what should they look out for? Because I know when you mention things like drop shipping and stuff, to me, like automatically I'm like, oh, is there risks I have to mitigate, being like if I'm buying stuff like especially now like from China or overseas? Yeah. And then other people just like knocking off my products and stuff. Like what are some of the, the high level, maybe like top 2 or 3 risks that you got to keep your eye out for?
It really depends on the business model. So if you're going to be buying a content site, an e-commerce site, or a SaaS/membership site, it changes and it's different between those 3. So how about what I do is I answer one for each of those.
Perfect. Yeah.
So with a content website, the biggest risk is most sites are very reliant on organic traffic. So that's having a good SEO profile and organic traffic coming from search engines such as Google, Yahoo, or Bing. And this is a risk because when Google or one of these algorithms changes their algorithm and they update it, then sometimes websites may not be up to date with that new change, and they can lose rankings of their articles and their posts. So they're not ranked as high in the search engines, which means when they're not ranked as high in the search engines, not as much traffic will go to the site, which means not as much, revenue comes through the site through affiliate links or ads. So that's the biggest risk with content websites, or the pitfall. Now, there's obviously ways to mitigate that and combat that. And then you've got e-commerce sites. So e-commerce sites, there's probably the biggest risk, I would say, is not being savvy with what you teach, Kim, not being savvy with your digital marketing, because you can sell anything online. If you're a good digital marketer like you, Kim, I could say, Kim, can you just sell me some hoodies, and it's done, right? But if somebody is buying a site and they don't know anything about digital marketing, that's not a pitfall in the business. That's a pitfall in your strategy of buying the business. And I would advise against it. So number one is make sure you're good at digital marketing for that one. Now, the third one is SaaS and membership sites. Now, I think one of the biggest risks with this one is knowing how many active users or active members the site actually has. For example, I know people that have bought or have looked at buying a membership business, say they're buying Netflix, and Netflix might say, just for round and easy numbers, I've got 1,000 users who log in and they pay me $10 a month. So that's 10 grand a month, right? So they may say, I've got 1,000 users. But when they dig deeper into their research and due diligence into that business before they buy it, they may see that, all right, this business actually only has 500 active users. So 500 people paying that $10 per month. Whereas before they said they had 10,000 users, but they're actually got only 500 of those are paying, right? So the site only may be making $5,000 a month. So that's like a 50% decrease in the business. So that's one big, massive risk to look out for when you're buying a membership or a SaaS site. Another kind of small risk would be if the data or the information or the software is out of date. And then it costs you a lot of money to bring that up to date, because people are going to be buying old content and old software. So that's a big risk to look out for, or a pitfall to look out for.
There are three great ones that everyone definitely should take into consideration, as you said there. And I think that's definitely, as you mentioned, doesn't necessarily mean that you can't do it, but as you mentioned, if you don't have a marketing skill or experience, like what we would teach people, that would have to adjust your strategy completely, right? Because you need to make sure that you can bring those things into line, or you've got to be able to partner or pay someone to do that for you if you do want to scale it, I suppose, past where it sits at the current moment when you're looking at it.
Yeah, because you could buy a site and go, hey, and people do this, they go, hey, I don't know much about digital marketing. Kim, can you do the marketing for this business? And that's a good strategy as well. And then you have to look at other different pitfalls before you buy the business. And there's heaps of pros and cons to everything, but that's a good strategy. Like if somebody is not committed to learning how to do the digital marketing, I mean, that's a huge task, alone. Like a business is basically sales and marketing. So if you can get somebody good on your team, by all means do it.
Yeah, I love that. And just purely out of my own curiosity, because I read it in the book, I think it was Nathan Latker's book that I went through, and he mentioned about Chrome plugins as a business and like a website business and sending people down that way. Have you had any experience with that or looked at that at all? Because essentially that's almost like a SaaS, right? That you're buying is like a SaaS business, a Chrome plugin, and adding in users and stuff like that. Have you had any experience with that? And what have you seen on that side? Just purely personal question, because I've been reading a bit about it.
Yeah, I actually haven't bought any extensions or plugins, Chrome extensions or plugins. I've seen some for sale, and none of my clients have actually gone through and done any due diligence on them. So what we do is people will look at businesses, they'll do due diligence, they can submit that to me. So they make sure that I look at it and say, hey, this isn't a lemon, and they can go forwards. If it is, they go back to the drawing board. So I've never seen anybody look or do due diligence on these. So I haven't had experience in purchasing these extensions or Chrome plugins, but I think it's a great way to go if you know how to market a software and if it's got an actual need in the market. So for example, when I see like Neil Patel is a huge name in SEO, I'm sure you've heard of him. When he creates something, I know it's going to have a need. And if it's going to help me, I'm going to go away and get it. But if there's a big pool of users that don't actually need that service or don't need that product, then it's going to be really hard to sell it. So I think the need is more important than anything with that. But I haven't actually had the experience. And yeah, if anybody wants to buy one, hit me up because I'd love to do some due diligence on it.
Yeah, because I've been looking at them, and one of the strategies Nathan shares is finding one that's got a big user base and then adjusting it, as opposed to making it free. Make it free for the first 50 users, and then it's XYZ per month, and kind of adding in a paywall after. So I know that there was one point I was like, I started looking into it, and I was like, I don't have the time to do this, because it does take I'm sure, as you can attest to, like, you've got to put in some effort to try and find the right ones and the right things. But that kind of comes to my next question, which is like, when researching and trying to find these, like, because I'm sure that people might be listening, like, do I now just go and Google, like, buy a website business and see what comes up? Like, how do you actually find these opportunities for purchasing? Because I mean, again, there's not just like, you go to a business broker trying to buy a physical business. Like, where do you go to try and find these opportunities? And I'm sure there's probably some secret ones that you've got yourself up your sleeve for your students as well. So you don't have to divulge all of them, but a little bit of insight. Where do people normally go to try and at least start looking for them?
Yeah, we'll start with the secret ones. They're secrets. Like, there's no particular place that you can go, but they come to you. So we call it deal flow, where people, like, if you know people in the industry that own sites, or if people know that you teach people to buy sites or you sell sites, that deal flow is going to come to you. And I get a bit of deal flow come to me, which is quite cool. Now, they're the kind of secret ones, but like, it is pretty similar to buying a brick and mortar business, a property. Like, when you're buying real estate, is you go to the broker, right? You go to the real estate broker, or you go to the business broker. If you go to type into Google website brokers, a whole bunch of different website brokers will pop up, and you can go in and you can see how much these sites are for sale. So they'll say, this site is for $100,000. Its average monthly net profit may be $3,000 a month, right? So for $100,000, you can buy a $3,000 per month income. This is the work that's required to run the site. These are the risks, and these are the opportunities. And they go through them briefly. Obviously, they're trying to sell you the business because they're brokers. So you do need to take what they say with a grain of salt and do your own research. But yeah, if you go to website brokers in Google, just type that in, you'll find a bunch. We've got empireflippers.com, feinternational.com, motioninvest.com, investors.club, Quiet Light Brokerage. If you go to any of those links, then you'll find a bunch of different businesses for sale, and you'll just learn so much about it just by going to those sites.
And again, just a curiosity question. What's the coolest website that you've seen for sale? And then what was the best deal that you've seen for sale that's come across your desk?
This is really good. One of the coolest ones, I think, was pretty recent, where I had a client. He came to me and he's like, hey, I want to buy this business. And it was like a membership business, right? Have you heard of Gumroad? I'm sure you've heard of Gumroad, where you can publish books and stuff, right? So what they were doing is people were paying the membership for templates for different types of content. And it was a small amount of money per month, but there was a lot of active users paying. And the hours required was like only a couple of hours per week to actually create the template, and that was it. And I was basically putting a strategy in place where he can outsource that and some growth strategies as well. But I just thought that was one of the cooler businesses that I've been a part of that has been purchased. And the other one was like, what's the best result?
Like the best one where it's like, oh, cool. It cost them 10 grand and it makes them $1 billion a month or something.
If anybody finds that one, send me a message. So I was actually quite lucky in my second business, and I'd have to say this is the best return that I've seen. It was a business that had a lot of different moving parts, and it had different currencies. So it was being sold in US dollars, but there was an Aussie business, and they also traded in Thai baht. So there was all these different currency conversions, and the price range per product wasn't fixed. It was a tailored product, and it was really hard to understand the financials. And I actually did due diligence on this for a month, and I was just like, and the business wasn't selling to anybody. And that was because nobody really was going to be going, I'm going to back this business, even though the figures look right, but I can't pinpoint that they're actually right. So for me, the gut feeling was like, and I go huge on my intuition. Like I do my head smarts, but then also go back into my gut and my heart and kind of ask my body what's the right decision here. And yeah, at this time, this was in 2015, I bought this business and I bought it and I made 100% return on my investment in 7 months. So for example, say the business was like 50 grand, I made 50 grand. I made my money back, my 100% money back in 7 months. And everything from then on was like pure profit. And that's one of the more stellar deals. I've had other clients that have gotten good deals like that, where they've got all their money back in under 12 months, which has been quite cool. You know, that was more than 5 years ago there as often, because more people are finding out about this space, Kim, and they're like, what the hell, 20 to 30% return on investment per year? Like, I need to put my money there. And that's just driven the demand for these websites up, which has driven the prices of them up as well.
Yes, we've got to take your podcast down, bro. No more telling people about getting these 20-30% returns anymore. To keep that stuff secret.
Yeah. Just bleep that bit out on the podcast, eh?
Yeah. One question that I didn't ask you that I should have.
Does everybody get stumped on this question like me, Kim?
Yeah, okay, pretty much.
So
no one's just been like bang straight off the top of the
mouth. Yeah. It's in between. What would you do if you just start over? And what's the best ROI on education and help that you've ever received? Or I like that one. Let's go with that one. Let's go with that one. What's been the best ROI? The best ROI has been in hiring mentors. And, you know, I came back from one of my trips. I was away for 18 months. I was just surfing around South America. And I came back and I asked my cousin, I was like, dude, I am going all in on this business. I'm going to spend as much money as I need to make this work. And I came back and I was like, all right, cool. I'm just going to hire, like, I think in the first year I just spent $50,000 on 2 different people to help me with 2 different parts of my business. And if I hadn't have done that, like, you know, what I'm doing is I'm paying to learn from somebody else's mistakes. And this is the biggest sore point for me, Kim. That time that I first time I ever spent more than 15 grand on a coach or a mentor, I had always been like, all right, cool. I'm going to be the self-made millionaire, the self-made entrepreneur. And it actually, like, really, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, go for it.
It actually really fucked me up. Because I had this ego thing where I was like, dude, I'm going to be the self-made person, the self-made millionaire. Nobody self-made. I was so fixated and literal on that. Like, nobody's going to help me. I'm going to do this myself. And so then I went to all these free seminars and I became a bit of a seminar slut. And I just went around all these different free seminars and learning all this free stuff. And getting free ebooks and reading books and listening and watching free media on YouTube. And there was just like tactic and strategy after strategy. And it just very confusing and sent me around in circles and circles. And I learned a lot, but mainly because I just made those failures. And I think it just really stuffed me up. Like, if I had have just bit the bullet and trusted in that I was going to make a right decision in the right person and started buying those mentors and paying those mentors, I would have been light years ahead. And not to say that I'm not happy with where I'm at. I'm very grateful for where I'm at right now. But I think that if somebody else can learn that, like, hey, find somebody that's just has the lifestyle you want or the business model that you want and go, dude, teach me this. Even if they're not a mentor, pay for it anyway, because it will come back to you in droves.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that's the part, a big part that people forget is that when you go to get a mentor, as you said, like, you want to, I think a lot of people and entrepreneurs, like, I want to do it myself, which is cool. And by all means, you could have been equally as successful as you are now, but it probably would have taken you a lot longer. So all of that is, I like to, say it's like compressing decades into days. If I can go, hey, if I'm ever going to consider buying a website now or anything like that, I know that I'm just going to go straight to you. because I haven't spent the countless years, hours researching and putting all the information together and identifying it. And then the same for marketing. If people are like, cool, I want to learn how to scale my business from a marketing perspective as fast as possible, they come to me because it's like, I've spent 16 years doing it. So I can compress 16 years and I can be like, cool, here's one thing that you can do to change something and it's going to make it even better for you. And then same for yourself, like, oh, here's one problem with that business you're going to buy. By all means, go buy it, make the mistake, and then come and see me in 2 years and start again. Or do my program, work with me, change that one thing, and then you don't have to deal with that issue.
Hugely. I've actually sent people to your certified balls event and sent people to you and like, hey, like go away and speak to one of Kim's team, and you'll find out the price of like what it is to work with him, but that you'll get that money back. Like that is like, it's just freaking do it. Like it's a very warm introduction. Not everybody gets to speak to you, Kim. And like, I've seen your work. Like I've worked with some of your disciples before, and your disciples are excellent. Like it scares me to think how excellent you are. So like, it's just, if somebody is saying, hey, go and work with this person and they're going to help you get the result you want, you'd just be so stupid not to.
So true. And guys, if you listen to anything that Jaryd shared today, just that one part about getting the previous owner to coach you on their business so that you can, to be honest, you might ask them some questions, but no one's going to be like, hey, I need to work with you for a couple of weeks and identify that so that you can go through. When you've got the business, you've got it from the person who is successfully running it. Like that's gold. Now, if people want more of that gold, Jaryd, they're like, cool, I can understand. And Kim's telling you, this is legit. I've been on his podcast I own for a couple of years now. Like work in this space, you need to go and connect with Jaryd. Where's the best place for them to go to? Socials, website, where's the best place to connect with you?
Yeah, if you type in buyingonlinebusinesses.com into Google or buying online businesses into Facebook, Facebook is Jaryd Krause and Jaryd Krause on Instagram. But yeah, if you just type in Jaryd Krause on Google, it'll pop up Buying Online Businesses. We're ranked in the top 3 best passive income podcasts online. So we're trying to get above Patful in there. It's going to happen.
I believe in you.
yeah, come check it out. And thanks so much for the shout out, Kim. It's been an absolute pleasure having a chat with you today.
Loved having you here, my man. And guys, if you know anyone that has thought about buying an online business, or maybe they're looking at different opportunities for a side hustle, please go and share this episode with them, because as we said, like help them compress their decades or hours and days of research into 35 minutes by coming and listen to Jaryd. And, if you like this episode, please do leave us a review. Make sure that you're subscribed wherever you're watching this so that we can see how we can better bring you amazing guests like Jaryd who shared this knowledge with you guys, because it's hard to find good guests, guys. So if you guys let me know what you like, I'll make sure I keep bringing the good people. But Jaryd, again, thank you so much for joining us, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kim. Appreciate it too.
Cheers.